Nobody expected holiday photos to turn into a full-blown family firestorm, but the internet had other plans. Because the moment Chrisean Rock popped out celebrating the holidays with Junior alongside LiAngelo, the timeline didn't just notice, it froze. And somewhere in the middle of that freeze was Karlissa, watching a situation unfold that nobody bothered to give her a heads up about. This wasn't a quiet family moment. This wasn't low-key. This was one of those situations where a single photo feels louder than 1,000 words. Smiles, matching vibes, holiday energy. And suddenly the internet started asking the question nobody could ignore: how is Blueface's mom supposed to feel about this? Because let's be real, this wasn't just about Christmas lights and good vibes. This was about boundaries, about loyalty, about who gets access and who gets left watching from the outside. And when Karlissa reacted, people didn't hear a response, they heard tension. Timelines split instantly. Some called it harmless, others called it messy. And a third group grabbed popcorn because this felt less like a holiday gathering and more like the opening scene of a family drama Netflix would greenlight without reading the script. And the wildest part, nobody even knows what conversations happened behind closed doors. All they know is what they saw and what they think it means not to understand why this holiday moment hit such a nerve. You have to understand that nothing about this situation exists in a vacuum. Chrisean Rock, Junior Blueface, and Karlissa aren't just names, they're a history. A loud one, a messy one, a public one. And when LiAngelo Ball entered the frame during the holidays, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like a statement. Whether anyone intended it that way or not, the photos and clips didn't arrive quietly. They never do. One minute the internet was scrolling through typical holiday fluff, and the next minute there it was: Chrisean smiling, Junior present, LiAngelo Ball in the mix, all wrapped in festive energy. It looked warm, comfortable, familiar, and that's exactly why it rattled people. Because familiarity sends a message louder than captions ever could. Immediately, questions started flying. Not gentle ones, not curious ones, sharp ones. Why him? Why now? Why the holidays? And most importantly, where does this leave Karlissa? Because whether people like it or not, Blueface's mother has never been a silent background character. She's vocal, reactive, protective, and deeply invested. So when the internet realized she hadn't been front and center in this holiday setup, they knew a reaction was coming. It was only a matter of time. What made this moment especially explosive was the symbolism. Holidays aren't neutral. They're loaded. They're about family, access, inclusion, and who gets a seat at the table. When someone is visibly absent from that table, people assume tension, even if none is confirmed. And the internet doesn't wait for confirmation, it manufactures conclusions. Karlissa didn't post a lengthy statement. She didn't need to. Her reaction, subtle or direct depending on where you looked, carried weight because of everything that came before it. Years of public disagreements, protective instincts, previous tension with Chrisean. All of it rushed back into the conversation at once, suddenly. This wasn't about holiday cheer anymore. It was about boundaries. Who has influence over Junior's life? Who gets to play family? And who feels pushed to the sidelines? That's when opinions hardened fast. Supporters of Chrisean framed it as independence, growth, a new chapter. They argued she had every right to create her own holiday traditions, especially if they brought her peace. They praised the calm energy of the moment and treated Karlissa's reaction as unnecessary interference. On the other side, Karlissa's defenders saw something else entirely: disrespect, exclusion, a lack of consideration. They argued that holidays aren't just about who shows up, they're about who should have been included. To them, this wasn't harmless. It was a deliberate move that ignored family dynamics that don't disappear just because people stop getting along. And then there were the spectators, the ones who didn't care who was right or wrong. They just knew this was messy, the kind of messy that doesn't need raised voices to feel loud, the kind where silence and smiles say more than arguments ever could. LiAngelo Ball's presence added fuel without him saying a single word. Because his name comes with its own weight, fame, status, visibility, the internet immediately started speculating about intent. Was this just friendship? Was it support? Or was it something deeper that no one was addressing publicly yet? Karlissa's reaction, whatever form people interpreted it as, became the emotional anchor of the story. Not because she screamed, not because she threatened, but because people know how she moves. And they could sense she wasn't thrilled. The internet loves reactions more than events, and Karlissa's reaction gave people something to latch onto. Screenshots circulated. Commentary videos popped up. Think pieces started forming out of thin air, all because one family moment didn't include everyone people expected. What made this especially dramatic was how familiar it felt. This wasn't a new storyline. It was a continuation. A new chapter in a long-running saga where every move is scrutinized and every holiday becomes a battleground. People started dragging up old clips, old arguments, old statements. Everything suddenly became relevant again. Context was rebuilt, selectively depending on which side someone wanted to support. That's how fast narratives get reconstructed online. At its core, this moment exposed something uncomfortable: the idea that co-parenting, extended family, and new relationships don't come with clean transitions. They overlap, they clash. And when they play out publicly, everyone thinks they're entitled to an opinion. Karlissa wasn't just reacting to photos. She was reacting to history, to patterns, to fears about being pushed out of a role she takes seriously. Whether people agree with her or not, that emotion doesn't come from nowhere. Chrisean, meanwhile, looked unbothered in the visuals, relaxed, present, focused on her child and the moment. And that contrast made everything louder, because calm energy in the middle of tension always looks intentional. Even if it isn't. By the end of this phase, the internet had already chosen sides. Not based on facts, but on feelings: loyalty versus freedom, family versus independence, tradition versus new dynamics, and everyone felt justified in their stance. This holiday moment wasn't just a photo op, it was a trigger, one that reopened unresolved tensions and reminded everyone that when family drama goes public, there's no such thing as a private celebration. And if this was just the beginning of the conversation, everyone knew what was coming next: escalation. Because reactions never exist alone. They invite responses. They invite speculation. They invite the internet to dig deeper. Once Karlissa's reaction hit the timeline, whether through a post, a comment, or the unmistakable tone people swore they could read between the lines, the story officially leveled up. This is where holiday vibes got replaced with think pieces, and a family moment turned into a full-blown cultural debate. The internet didn't just react, it picked sides like this was a playoff game with bragging rights on the line. Memes showed up instantly, not the gentle kind either. Side-by-side edits compared holiday peace to family tension. Screenshots zoomed in on faces, body language, who stood where, who wasn't tagged, who didn't repost. Suddenly, everyone was a forensic analyst for Instagram stories. And the captions, ruthless, equal parts sarcasm and certainty. Like the internet had already solved a mystery nobody officially confirmed. Commentary channels jumped in, because this story had everything they love: a famous mom, a controversial ex, a child at the center, and a new male presence with a recognizable last name. LiAngelo Ball didn't have to say a word. His presence alone did the talking. Fame has gravity, and when it enters a family situation, it bends every narrative around it. Celebrity reactions follow the usual playbook: cryptic posts, holiday captions with suspicious timing, vague quotes about protecting your peace, and boundaries being crossed. Nobody named names, but everybody knew exactly who was being discussed. Fans treated these posts like coded transmissions and amplified them as proof that the drama was deeper than it looked. The public outrage didn't come from one direction, it fractured. Some people accused Karlissa of overstepping, saying she needed to let Chrisean live her life and create her own traditions. Others accused Chrisean of intentionally poking the bear, using the holidays and a high-profile companion to send a message. Both sides spoke with absolute confidence, despite having access to the same limited information. And then there were the junior debates. That's where things got heated, real heated. People started arguing about what exposure is healthy, what family access should look like, and who gets to decide what's best. The conversation went from gossip to moral warfare in record time. Parenting opinions flew like confetti, most of them uninvited. LiAngelo Ball became a lightning rod. Some praised him for stepping up and being present. Others questioned motives, timing, and optics. Was this support, friendship, or something more strategic? The internet loves a mystery, and when someone doesn't clarify, speculation becomes entertainment. Karlissa's name trended not because she said something explosive, but because people expected her to. Anticipation became content. Every silence was analyzed. Every repost was dissected. The absence of a full statement somehow said more than a statement ever could. In internet logic, restraint equals tension. The drama spilled beyond social media into group chats, reaction videos, and long threads arguing about respect, loyalty, and who gets left out when family dynamics change. People dragged up old footage like receipts, stitching together years of moments to justify whatever conclusion they'd already decided on. What made this phase especially messy was how personal it felt to viewers. Everyone projected their own family experiences onto the situation. Estranged parents, protective grandparents, new partners during holidays. This story became a mirror, and people argued with each other instead of the facts. At some point, the holiday decorations faded into the background. The smiles stopped mattering. The question wasn't did they have a good holiday anymore. It was who crossed a line. And once that question enters the chat, nuance leaves immediately. By the end of this stretch, the narrative had officially escaped reality. It wasn't about one reaction or one celebration. It was about power, access, and visibility. About who feels replaced and who feels free. And the internet, as always, demanded escalation. Because once a story hits this level, it never stays where it started. It either explodes or it waits for the next move to push it over the edge. By the time the noise began to thin, it was clear this wasn't just another holiday headline that would disappear with the tinsel. This was the part of the story where reactions turn into ripples, quiet at first, then spreading into places the cameras never show. Because once the internet decides a moment means something, the people involved have to live inside that meaning long after the likes stop climbing. Karlissa's position became complicated fast. To some, she looked like a protective mother watching her family dynamics shift without her consent. To others, she looked like someone refusing to release control over a situation that no longer centered her. Both narratives existed at the same time, and neither one needed proof to survive. The internet doesn't demand receipts when it has feelings. Chrisean, meanwhile, found herself framed as either empowered or provocative, depending on who was doing the talking. One side praised her for creating her own traditions and prioritizing peace with her child. The other accused her of weaponizing the holidays, choosing visibility over sensitivity, and sending a message without saying a word. The irony was brutal. The same calm holiday energy people celebrated also made critics furious. Silence, once again, spoke louder than any caption. LiAngelo Ball's presence continued to loom like a plot device. He didn't post much. He didn't explain. He didn't react publicly. And that restraint only fueled curiosity. In internet culture, absence invites imagination, and imagination rarely plays fair. Some viewers elevated him into a stabilizing force. Others reduced him to a prop in someone else's storyline. Either way, his role kept expanding without his input behind the scenes. Relationships shifted, not dramatically, not publicly, but perceptibly. Allies hesitated, conversations paused. The kind of pauses that don't announce themselves but change how future interactions feel. That's how public moments quietly affect private dynamics. Nobody has to say this changed things. For it to be true. The internet, of course, moved on to the next outrage, but it didn't forget. Search results don't reset. Screenshots don't expire. This holiday moment joined a growing archive of clips and captions that people will resurface whenever it suits a new argument. That's the cost of public life. Nothing stays in the past. It just waits. What made this aftermath especially heavy was the lack of resolution. There was no clarifying statement that satisfied everyone. No single post that tied the story up neatly. Just fragments, interpretations, and competing truths that never fully aligned. And in that vacuum, the loudest voices kept echoing. Some fans began questioning the spectacle itself. Why did this feel so personal to strangers? Why did a family celebration turn into a battleground? Those questions didn't trend, but they lingered. Uncomfortable and unanswered. Because once you step back, it becomes obvious how easily empathy gets traded for engagement. For Karlissa, the challenge ahead wasn't about winning the narrative. It was about deciding how much of herself she was willing to keep offering. To an audience that consumes reactions as content, every future move would be watched more closely now. Every holiday, every post, every silence measured against this one. For Chrisean, the road forward required balance. Visibility without provocation, peace without erasing history, creating a life for Junior that isn't constantly narrated by strangers. That's not a viral skill, that's endurance. And for everyone watching, this moment exposed a larger truth about modern family drama. When relationships play out online, holidays become stages, reactions become headlines, and love gets filtered through algorithms. Nothing stays simple. Everything gets amplified. As the decorations came down and timelines refreshed, the story settled into its afterlife, no longer breaking news, but a reference point. The kind people mention in passing, or weaponize in debates, or resurface when the next chapter opens. Because make no mistake, this wasn't an ending. It was a hinge, a moment that quietly reshaped how every future interaction will be interpreted. The internet may have scrolled on, but the dynamics didn't reset with it. And that's the real twist. Not the reaction, not the photos, not the outrage. The twist is that once a family moment becomes public property, it never fully belongs to the family again. And this is where the internet pretends it's done, while quietly bookmarking the moment for later. Because let's be honest, this wasn't just a holiday reaction. This was a reminder that in the age of screenshots and side-eyes, every family moment can turn into a headline overnight. One photo, one reaction, one name in the mix, and suddenly everybody thinks they know the full story. So now it's your turn. If this breakdown had you pausing mid-scroll, raising an eyebrow, or saying nah, this is messy, smash that like button. It just RSVP'd without asking anyone first. Don't tap it gently, hit it with conviction. The algorithm doesn't respect subtlety, and neither does internet drama. Drop your real take in the comments. Not the polite one, the honest one. Was Karlissa reacting out of protection, pride, or pressure? Was Chrisean simply living her life, or was the timing louder than words? And where does LiAngelo ball actually fit into this picture support system or unintended spark? I want all the unfiltered opinions, because the comment section is where this conversation keeps evolving long after the posts stop trending. If you're new here, don't watch and disappear. Subscribe. Because stories like this don't come once in a while. They stack. One holiday turns into tension, one reaction turns into a ripple, and suddenly the timeline is rewriting family dynamics in real time. We break down every layer of that chaos right here. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next reaction, the next shift, or the next moment when the internet decides a family update means something more. Trust me, this saga isn't done introducing plot twists. Remember, reactions don't expire, silence gets interpreted, and the internet never lets a moment stay private. This is where the drama gets unpacked. This is where the optics get questioned. Welcome to fame. FLAWS.